Hello and welcome back to our Talent Matters podcasts. We've had a little bit of a break, but we are back with a vengeance, and this is the first podcast in a while. So forgive any rustiness from me, but I am very pleased to have Louise from UK Recruiter as a podcast expert. So there'll be no rustiness from Louise. You can be sure of that. No pressure. I'm Dave Jenkins, CEO of Wave. We are a recruitment technology company, but I'm not here to talk about Wave right now. I'm here to talk with Louise from UK Recruiter. And Louise, I was checking out your LinkedIn profile, and you are a recruitment industry fixer. You are a recruitment event expert, and I think a recruitment industry connector. But really, you are known throughout the industry, and so I was absolutely chuffed to bits when you said you would do this first podcast. And kind of, I was very pleased. So thank you very much for indulging us, for sure. So welcome.
Yeah, thanks so much. Hey, I didn't know this podcast was called Recruitment Matters. What a fabulous title. I really like
I think
that.
It's called Talent Matters, actually.
Oh, Talent Matters. Sorry,
but
yeah.
We can rename it because, you know these things. So we'll speak to Louise.
I thought recruitment because I called my newsletter, after years of being called the UK Recruiter newsletter, I called it Recruitment Smarts. And so I was thinking, I wish I'd called it Recruitment Matters.
Do you know that, do you remember that many moons ago, I used to write job board reviews for UK Recruiter?
Do you know?
You probably don't remember that.
Yeah, I do. And quite a few people who are now really super well known, like you, did stuff for me back in the day. And I was just like, oh my God, what is this person who's prepared to do some work for me for nothing? And I was over the moon. So yeah, you did those, and Matt Alder did some. And I had Emma Mirrington, who was at Sky at the time, was doing some reviews for me. And I just felt like this sort of media magnet with these people who were prepared to put the legwork in. And I remember when there was like a really tiny pool of sites you could review. So there was Matt Alder was saying, well, I think I've run out of job boards to review. Can you imagine?
Yes. Yeah. You could. It'd be interesting today, but it's a long time. But I'm sure everybody knows who you are and what you do, Louise. But for the purposes of this, it may be worth just reminding people.
Cool. No, happy to. So a long time ago, I worked in a recruitment agency. It was a funny old agency because they were kind of, on the one hand, they were headhunters, and then they did a bit of contingency, and they had a high street agency bit and everything. And I worked for them for a number of years. And then when I left, I was like, not really sure what to do. Didn't want to stay in recruitment. I wasn't an amazing recruiter, although I loved sourcing. And so I started getting involved in UK Recruiter. So it was a business I set up by myself. My dad was doing training for people on using the internet, and we did a course called Web for Headhunters. Again, back then when there was like a really small pool of information that you could go to. 22, 23 years on, still running UK Recruiter, so it's a community site, and doing a ton of other stuff. Some of the stuff you kind of alluded to, helping people with their connections, doing a bit of go-to-market consultancy, running events. I also work for a live broadcast platform as well. So filling my hours rather nicely.
Yes, yeah, fantastic. And as someone that has, the ear of a lot of people in the recruitment industry, what are people saying? What are people talking about? What are you hearing in the recruitment world right now?
It's a funny old time because a lot of what we're hearing is around things like this, the fact that candidate is in charge at the moment, that getting jobs is super easy, but filling them is difficult, that people are chasing their tails, that technology is even more important than it ever was, that automation is something we ought to really be focusing on. But I think that for the average recruiter right now, it's just a really, really busy time. So maybe you don't have exactly the same challenges as other people do. You're probably hearing a lot about how it's a massive time of opportunity and how you ought to be grasping the bull by the horns. And maybe you're thinking, well, actually, I'm still really struggling. And if you're not kind of like hiring in certain markets, or if you're not using certain technology, it isn't necessarily a much easier time for you. But I think there's a load of buzz, a load of excitement. I know we're going to come on to events a bit later, but I was at the Agency Expo in January, which is an event I recommend to everybody, to recruiters, to vendors.
I love the expo. I love it. I love it. I love it.
So I do the speaker selection for it. I don't get any commission off anybody who has a stand there or anything, but I do highly recommend it. And it was packed. So all the talks were really well attended. People were having conversations with lots of vendors. So recruiters were going along for learning, for networking, for picking up new tech. And that felt really positive to me. So these weren't people who were sitting at home or at their desks in the offices worrying about stuff. They were proactively trying to upskill. And if you talk to any of the other kind of like associations like the REC, APSCO, TRN, who again are really highly rate, team, they've got a lot of engagement, a lot of activity. So I think there's challenges, but it feels pretty good.
I think we hear the same thing in terms of people being almost as busy as they've ever been. But it is that the idea, the difficulty of sourcing candidates, that's been the challenge. But certainly, we didn't go to the expo in January, but we're going to be there in October, and I'm so looking forward to getting back. And I think everyone has been so excited about trying to get back, face to face, seeing people, talking to people, making those connections. I think we're done from being sort of locked down like everybody, I guess. So,
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And I think that, these challenges are around, sourcing people correctly, using the right automation where needed, using the technology where needed. But also, I think it's a real challenge to differentiate yourself right now as a recruiter. I mean, maybe there always has been, but that kind of, I can actually find those candidates for you. I can actually make that placement for you. Or why? Why are you so different from these other recruiters who are saying they can, who are trying to persuade me to move from a contingent based to a retained model? I think that is potentially the silver bullet that is yet to be solved, is what is a real USP in the recruitment space. And I'd love to talk with recruiters who actually have it. I speak to loads of people who say, well, we're different because, but very few who actually are, in a way which matters.
Yeah. And kind of circling back to events. I mean, I did a post on LinkedIn around, although we're a recruitment tech business, we're so aware of the fact that it's still people led. And, looking at events, is that something that recruitment companies, I know they have done those things, but obviously it's gone a bit quiet from a COVID perspective. But is running events, is that something that a recruitment company could do to show they are different, rather than just talking about it or emailing about it or emailing about it?
So the other part of the puzzle is owning your niche, owning your market, knowing who the clients are, having great relationships with them, knowing where to find people. And building a community means that you can do that. So if you build a community within your niche, which isn't always possible if it's a really broad niche, but if you build that community, then you're going to get more leverage and you're going to have that as a USP. And doing events is part of that. So in-person events, roundtable online events, things like that. And I think that there are some recruitment businesses who do that super successfully. So they will run, all over the UK or wherever they operate, these like the old-fashioned tweet up type experiences, or like HR Disrupt, those type of events where you bring together people who are both clients and candidates. So just to partners, bringing them together. And I think that if you have the capability to do that, then yeah, I totally agree. It doesn't have to be physical events. So one of the things I've seen people do quite successfully is create podcast series in their space, which is what you're doing here. You're speaking to people to get in front of your audience, to establish credibility, and recruiters can do that too. And it has a kind of dual purpose, because actually also you can build relationships with potential clients because you invite them to come onto your podcast or to speak at your event. So yeah, I'm 100% behind you in the idea of using events, building community to help form a USP or to establish that kind of industry niche expertise.
I guess that builds trust as well, doesn't it? You know, from a candidate and a client perspective, build that community, has that trust. And I guess it's not really my field, but do you get returning candidates? I mean, you certainly get returning clients, but candidates that will use a recruitment company time and time again because they're part of that community. But I think trust's a big thing, right?
I mean, that's another thing, isn't it? Is whether recruiters should be more like sports agents, where you have those candidates who come back to you when they want to make that next step in their career. And 100% there will be some recruiters who have that experience. They'll have been around for the last 30 years. I mean, if you look at someone like Ruella James in the Rec2Rec space, she's operating like a sports agent in a really positive way. So she's placing the same person multiple times. She's not ripping them out of an organization to put them in somewhere else. She's waiting for them to need to make that next step in their career. So yeah, I suspect there are other industries as well as Rec2Rec where that does happen. And it'd be nice if we found a way for that to happen more often without it being unethical or immoral, where you just wait until that person's ready to make that move and then you help them with that transition.
And that comes down to people, doesn't it? Having that people relationship with clients and with candidates, where the lines are and when to not overstep. So that's really interesting. What about other events wise? If we're talking about podcasts and things, you have some events coming up. And let's get some of that out into the podcast. Tell us about them.
So in the old days, I would be running quite a few in-person events a year. So in the very, very, very old days, I was running networking events in London, I know, every couple of months. They were quite enormous. So we were running them at places like Tiger. Did you ever come to any of those? No,
I was too young, I think.
They were obviously, yeah.
They wouldn't let me in. I didn't have my ID. I'm older than
they were, I'm not sure you are, they were lovely and hideous at the same time. So we were running those in places like Tiger. There would be 200 recruiters in a room. There was all sorts going on at those. And then I was like, I don't really want to be doing that. There's a place for it still. There are people who do run lots of those type of very social events. But it wasn't just age that defeated me. I was thinking, there's a couple of lawsuits just around the corner if we're not careful. So we stopped running those. And then tech events. So tech events in London once a year. Would normally do something which was imaginatively called my end of year conference in November, but not doing that this year. So this year I'm running an online recruitment marketing event, which has already happened in May, and there will be one in April, and there'll be one in November. So that's really cool, very niche. And then the tech event that you're coming to on the 23rd of June.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really great. So I was saying right at the start how I can see recruiters coming to events to learn, to look at tech, to understand better how they can use things like automation, how they can improve their social presence, how they can attract clients better. And that's what the tech event's about. So I won't bang on about it, but essentially it's a load of recruiters in a room and they can watch speed demos, they can go to masterclass sessions. I know that you love that 2-minute elevator pitch where you walk onto the stage, you have to deliver to a room of eager faces, and then you have to walk back off again.
It's the moment, isn't it?
We had one where they didn't want to, but Zoho sponsored a number of years back, and they actually didn't want to deliver their own 2-minute elevator pitch. They were like, oh, we can't do it in front of this audience. And I think I had to deliver it for them.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, so if I lose my nerve on the day, then I know where to go, right?
Not at all. You'll be fine. And then some other bits and bobs that I'm involved in, like the Agency Expo that you said. So the one in October, I know you're going to be at that. So that will be an event that I'll have a presence at too.
Super. And recruiters should get to these, shouldn't they? To especially there's so much tech around now as well, and we have that in some of our own challenges, is that you're trying to differentiate, and it could be tech that's completely different to what you do, but there is a big tech stack now for recruiters to have to try and get through. So going to these events is the type of thing that will help recruiters to figure out what they need and what they maybe don't need.
I think the problem is that a lot of the tech is not clear exactly what it does. So, I need something for sourcing, but is that something which is like a LinkedIn automation tool? Is it something which is going to search through your own CRM? Is it going to involve automation messaging? Is it going to be refreshing your candidate information? Video interviewing is just such a thing. Am I doing one-way interviewing? Is it going to be something I would show my hiring manager? So coming to an event like that means you can have that conversation. And the other really cool thing is that you know about lots of other people's tech.
So business wise, you've been, you're very successful, very experienced, a lot of people. You must have had some decent picked up some decent tips around business. So any advice that you'd give to those recruiters that you're talking about earlier that maybe still trying to sort of claw their way out of the pandemic? Any advice?
So it's an interesting one, because I've got a kind of a glib answer and then a proper answer. I think business advice is a bit like parenting advice, which is that everyone wants to tell you something, don't listen to a single person. But I also think that parenting advice, you should actually listen to some people. It's just really tricky to know who to listen to. And I think business is the same. There is an enormous amount of people who want to share their opinions. So I guess what I think is there's a certain amount of keeping your ears open, osmosis, taking in the stuff which seems to work for people. That person telling you how to be $1 billion biller who is still selling their courses on Facebook, probably don't listen to them. But people who are running successful businesses or are talking with successful business owners, I think you should listen to. So what I like about the podcast you're doing is you're talking to a variety of people. And if you just take a bit from everybody, you're going to learn something great. TRN, James Osborne, I think that he's really good at kind of pulling together really good information. And so when he talks or runs panels, I want to listen to those. I actually really like panel discussions. So I never speak at events, but if I do, I would run a panel. So I'm not actually talking, I'm just pulling information in. So I think that for recruiters, it's about looking at what's out there in terms of knowledge and just picking up the bits which make the most sense. I did a show recently with Erica Clifford, who runs a Recruit Tech product, and she was talking about the 4 mistakes she made. I love things like that. Listen to the mistakes other people made, and partly because actually often they're quite fun, but also because you'll pick stuff up. The other thing,
and there's a story there, isn't there? There's a story around stuff like that.
Yeah, I love a conversation. There's nothing worse now than going to an event where there's a speaker on stage talking to the audience for 45 minutes without taking a single breath or putting a comma or punctuation. Honestly. My other thing is about getting swayed by shiny things. So lots of people talk about this. We've talked about tech tons in this chat, and lots of people talk about not getting swayed by the next shiny thing. And then you hear a load of people saying how you have to keep your eyes open for everything that's coming on the market, be an early adopter. Well, Dave, what's the answer to that? What are you meant to do?
I can't agree more with the shiny thing answer, because I guess in some respects the industry doesn't change as quick as what the people that make the shiny things. We make some nice tech, but it doesn't change. It doesn't revolutionize things as quickly as the shiny thing producers would expect and would think. everything does move a lot slower. And often the challenge with being an early adopter is you can take some early wins in that, but also you're also going to be running through the testing process of whoever's creating the shiny thing, because if it's a brand new thing, it's not going to work, that great, or there'll still be some bugs there. So it's really hard. You have to really think about what it is that you need. And, we talking about tech stacks, and there are so many things now that a recruitment agency has to have, according to all of the recruitment tech providers. And this, you go back to the olden days and recruiters didn't have these things. It was the book of contacts, and that was it. So it's hard now to try and determine what is needed and what is just fancy.
Yeah. But can someone still recruit just with their mobile phone? Well, just their landline, but just with their phone. Probably not. But I don't think you need absolutely everything that's going out there. And I say that as someone who runs tech events to showcase things to people. But what I'm not suggesting you do is come along and buy one of everything. It's about working out what's going to work best in your business. And looking at CRMs, that's one of the reasons I got involved with RecTech Compare, which is this comparison tool, because you don't need everything that the best CRM has. You need the things which work with your process or will drive your process better. I mean, that's a conversation for another day. In actual fact, it's a question I'm going to be asking you when you come on my live chat, which is should you bend your process to the tech, or should the tech match your process? Because
I love that.
Yeah,
I love that. And I better start thinking of an answer for that then, didn't I? So, that's really cool. And I think, again, good advice to not listening to everything. Another example on that is you think about the number of like business books and self-help books and all of these things that you could read. If you did everything that they all say, then you'd never do anything, because you'd be busy trying to adopt everybody else's piece of advice. So kind of finishing up then, what's next for UK Recruiter? What's in the plan? We obviously heard about some of the events that are coming up, but is there anything else that we should be looking out for down the line?
I need to think about what's going to be the next big thing, too much shiny stuff for me. So I was an early adopter for things like blogging, for live video, for doing networking events. I mean, I was doing
job board reviews.
But I was doing them before anybody else was, or you were doing them. I need to think about what's next around the corner for me in this space. I mean, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not making a massive reveal here. But just in terms
that would have been brilliant. It would have been
quite exciting.
Got an exclusive, You're opening a restaurant or something. Yeah.
Do you know, if I opened a restaurant, I was going to call it Toast, but there's loads of restaurants called Toast now. So I need to think about something different. So no, it's about how. I think the real challenge is for recruiters is how do they get the right information to make the right business decisions? And I have to form part of that. So my challenge is working out how I make certain I continue to do that. So live broadcast, physical events, the newsletter, the website, all been really effective in that. But it's just looking, is there one more thing that I could be doing? I don't know the answer yet.
Well, we'll watch this space.
Cool.
We will keep an eye. So that's it. That's it. Thank you, Louise. That's been it's been brilliant. I was concerned, and I said to you in the lead up to this is going to be like interviewing Paxman. It's the protege and the master, but you've made it really easy for me. So thank you for that. It's been great to have you on. We are going to be doing more podcasts as well. So if you're watching this, keep an eye out for other stuff. Thank you very much, Louise. Haven't plugged Wave at all, and it's not the point of this, but Wave is the company to come to if you're looking to hire and find and source the best candidates that are out there. So come and see us if you need to, but otherwise join us for our next podcast. Thank you very much. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you. I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Take care.